Hey guys, welcome back. If you are new here, hi, my name is Shayna, and in my little corner of the internet, we talk about spooky history of all kinds. If that sounds like something you're interested in, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell because I am here for you normally on Wednesdays, but this is Halloweek, so I'm here till Halloween. I'll be sure to link up here yesterday's video in case you missed it. But today we're going to be talking about a super haunted home, and it's called the Bellaire house. So let's dive in. 1699 Belmont Street in Bellaire, Ohio, near the bank of the Ohio River, is a home that people call the Bellaire house. The land this home sits on is where the French and Indian Wars took place. The house sits on what's called a lee line, which means there's a constant source of paranormal energy in the house that goes in and out of it. The Bellaire house is believed to be haunted because of many reasons, but one of them being because of a coal mine explosion that happened in Ohio Valley in 1893. 42 men were killed in the explosion, and it took days to recover the bodies. Very tragic. A man named Jacob Hetherington owned all of the coal mines in the Ohio Valley. He also worked in the mines with the employees and his best friend Jack. Fun fact, the old nursery rhyme, "This is the house that Jack built," is about a Jack the Mule who helped Jacob build this mansion and expand his coal mine business. Can't say I've heard of that nursery rhyme, but anywhoosies. Moving on, Jacob married a woman named Eliza Armstrong. The day Eliza Armstrong met Jacob Hetherington, she saw a star fall from the sky. It's a very interesting story. When Eliza saw this falling star, she immediately went looking for it. She walked and came across the Davis family. She asked someone from the Davis family if they had seen the falling star. Mrs. Davis told Eliza to fall on her knees and pray to the gods because seeing a falling star was a bad omen. Eliza decided to ignore Mrs. Davis's advice and kept walking looking for the falling star. She walked for miles and reached the place where she thought the star would be. And that location was near the Ohio River bank, and that's where she met her future husband Jacob. Kind of a sweet story, other than the crazy Mrs. Davis part. But Jacob was known as a pretty wealthy man. He was described as a coal mining tycoon who paid off his debts and bought 667 acres of farming and coal lands and 110 acres of woodlands, as well as he was one of the largest taxpayers in the Belmont County. Now, the founder of the Bellaire town was Jacob Davis. He was a successful businessman who settled in the town that he named Bellaire after his mother's hometown that was in Maryland. Now, Hetherington, I keep wanting to say Harrington, but we're not talking about Stranger Things. So Hetherington, along with Captain Fink, had close ties with Davis, and together they worked with Reverend Truman of the Bellaire United Methodist Church to free runaway slaves. Now, I wanted to give you a little bit of a backstory of the man who would go on to build the house. So I'm sorry if this was kind of confusing, but I wanted to kind of paint a full picture. The Hetherington seemed like a very honest and caring man. In March of 1893, it was reported that the Hetherington coal mine at Bellaire were to be abandoned. The operators spent $8,000 in an attempt to put the fire out. This particular explosion occurred in coal mine number 1, and the scary part is that the Bellaire house sits on top of coal mine number 1, or where it was. In 1847, Hetherington started the construction of the Bellaire house in the vicinity of the sacred Shawnee Native American burial caves. Now, the Native American caves were right behind the home, and the Ohio River was right in front of it. Now, this home has 5 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, and is about 2,776 square feet. And it is now 172 years old. Paranormal enthusiasts and researchers believe that the water from the Ohio River is a portal because it's always moving. They think that the magnetic pull of the water creates this powerhouse of energy where spirits can cut through earthbound gravity and they could gain energy and port back and forth from their dimension to ours. Now, people believe that this portal sits right under the Bellaire house. This area is still considered as Native American interment area, and it's a place where Native Americans who lived in this area used to bury their leaders, chieftains, shamans, healers, and witch doctors. And they believe it's also a place where they used to hold their ceremonies in this particular area and practiced magic. Then in 1754, the French and Indian War rampaged through Bellaire. The native massacres by the hands of the French soldiers were large. Very, very sad times. Now let's fast forward to March 1940. There was another explosion in the mines. This time it was in coal mine number 2, which was commonly referred to as Willow Grove Mine at the time. It was about 20 minutes from Bellaire. The explosion trapped 180 men in the mine and took the lives of at least 50 men. More than 100 were severely burned and wounded. Many people tried to rescue the trapped men, but they could only save a few. It's believed that this explosion also contributes to the hauntings that go on at the home. So now let's talk about the hauntings, and there are many of them. Many of these are testimonies that I'm going to read off to you of what people reported. So if it sounds like I'm reading, that's because I am. So here's a testimony of someone who visited the home. My granddaughters and myself spent the night in the house. It was July 16th and 17th of this year, 2021. This house did not disappoint. We got EVPs, or electronic voice phenomenon, in the attic of a young girl named Amanda. She was close to us. The air was cold when she got close to our meters and as I was asking questions. The temperature was 89 degrees outside that day, so the attic was very hot when we walked up there. The time was about 8 p.m. on Friday night. The little girl lit up our meters and made sounds as she walked around us. This went on for 20 minutes, then she left. We were all sitting at the table downstairs in the first room when we all heard footsteps walking upstairs. The door in the room just above us would always be open when we went up there to check it out. It was the closet door where there were said to be portals. We tried to debunk it, but we couldn't. We got several EVPs and we saw a dark cowboy figure named Wayne. We saw several figures that was dark and a childlike figure at about 4:30 a.m. Wow, that's a lot of stuff to happen in just a span of 2 days. And one day the owner of the home, Christy Lee, said she was home when she heard the sound of footsteps coming from the attic. She assumed it was her boyfriend Jeff, whom she thought was working upstairs. When sometime later she heard Jeff come through the front door downstairs. Kristen was shocked, but figured that the noise she heard from the attic was just the old house settling. And honestly, that's what I would think too. I would totally hear something that would be so distinct like footsteps and then just write it off as something sensible because I didn't want to deal with it. That's just me though. A few weeks later, Kristen was napping on the couch when she was awakened by a presence next to her. She opened her eyes to discover a man's grayish figure in a cap. She screamed and demanded to know who he was. The man said nothing. He got up from the couch and made his way to the foyer and vanished into thin air. Nope. Kristen noted that her boyfriend and son were sleeping at the time that this happened, but the family dog appeared to be panic-stricken, so that poor thing. She says that was her first startling encounter with the supernatural inside the house, which she would later dub as a portal to hell. So that's a great name to give your house. Now this is crazy, okay? Things would finally come to a head one evening when Kristen says that her dog was hurled against the bedroom wall by an invisible force, which at the same time pinned Kristen down, meaning she couldn't move at all. She couldn't move to save her dog. She was just stuck there, being held. Now after that incident, Kristen and her family decided to move and just rent out the house. But her tenants did not stay there very long. I wonder if she had to disclose that the house was haunted when people would rent from her. Honestly, if I owned a home that was haunted, I would not rent it out. I would probably just burn it to the ground, just saying. People have seen a tall man who appears to be in overalls and a white shirt, and he seems to be staring out of the basement window into the parking lot. People have been poked, grabbed, pushed, scratched. Really crazy in there. A paranormal investigator named Mike Ricksecker went to the home and investigated. Here's what he had to say about it. The moment I walked in the door this past time with my friend and colleague Copperhead, or George Graham, we felt a heavy energy upon us immediately. Heard noises coming up from the basement and heard footsteps overhead when no one else was in the house. But there is more to this house than just simply a supernatural thrill. Yeah, you couldn't pay me to set foot inside that house. I don't care how much. Now this next testimony is from a woman whose name is Sheila Renee Parker, and I believe she's like a paranormal author, but here's what she had to say. My husband and I stayed in the bedroom known as Emily's room, that's to the left at the top of the stairs. Emily is supposedly a little girl ghost who resides there. She didn't die in the house, but it's said that she had drowned in the nearby Ohio River many years ago. My husband and I tried communicating with Emily's spirit and did get a little interaction with a small light up ball. It wasn't extremely noticeable, but the vibrational energy surrounding the ball when we were talking with Emily was obvious. There was slight movement that barely rocked the ball back and forth. And my husband and I were the only ones in the room while this was happening, so we knew for sure it wasn't either of us who moved the ball. Emily's presence was light and non-confrontational. We really think she liked having us here. Honestly, ghost kids freak me out because a lot of the times demons will appear as kids to try to gain your trust and see them as innocent. And honestly, I'm not about that life. Now here's her second testimony that I found, which is really creepy. I went into the kitchen and washed my hands, and right before entering the kitchen door that was located on the right, just straight ahead was the area where the basement door was located. It was at that exact moment before I entered into the kitchen that I got this overwhelming dark feeling. It was nasty and wicked. I could, with my mind's eye, see this horrible shadowy presence just lurking and looking at me. It was hunched over in a deceptive way. Yeah. Now apparently the hauntings aren't just affecting the one home, but many of the nearby buildings as well. Many investigators have now concluded that the haunting is less about the house, but the land that it sits on, which makes sense, but it's just absolute craziness. I think there are a lot of demons in that house. That's just my opinion though, but it truly sounds awful. But that's it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video about the Bellaire house. I heard about it a few years ago and it was just really interesting to me because a lot of people call it the portal to hell because of so much that happens there. And I believe Ghost Adventures went there. I'm pretty sure there's an episode about them visiting that house, so be sure to check that out if you haven't. But that's it for me today, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow with another Halloweek video, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.